you're thinking, or you are, moving to Richmond, Virginia, and you don't know where to start, let me help you with the process of relocating from somewhere outside of Richmond, Virginia to Richmond, Virginia.
And it goes a little something like...
My name is Liz. Please like, subscribe, ring the bell, all the things you need to do on YouTube so you can see my other videos. I post one every Friday, and I'd love for you to see them. I want to tell you just a little bit about the journey of me moving to Richmond, Virginia, because I think it helps me help other people when they're on the same path. I moved to Richmond, Virginia about 5 years ago, and I moved from the Portland, Oregon area, which is a bigger place than Richmond, Virginia is. And in my mind, I thought that it would just be, I don't know, the same. I'm here to tell you that it's not the same as Portland, Oregon. You're probably chuckling at that, like, of course. But when you're making a big move across the country, there's things that maybe you don't consider, or maybe there's things that you really need to know before you get here. So here's what I wish I would have done, and here's what I think is a good way to kind of ease yourself into this change of moving from somewhere other than Richmond. I would recommend you planning a trip, a road trip, get on the airplane, whatever it is, and you just come out here to check it out. And I want you to look at a map of Richmond, and I want you to pick a place to stay that makes sense to you, of the area that you think, based on your research, would be good for you. And I want you to stay there, and then pick maybe one other place to stay. So pick 2 hotels, so you can kind of get a good feel for 2 different areas. I don't necessarily think you need to call your real estate agent before you get here for that trip. Of course, I want you to call me early and often, but I don't necessarily think that you need me following you around when you're just trying to get a feel for what Richmond's really like. So when I was moving from Portland, I came out, my husband was already working here, so I came out to Richmond and we just did a lot of driving. We ate at different places, we drove around neighborhoods, we timed how long it would be from this place to this place. Since I wasn't working in a specific office, there was a specific area that I knew I was going to go to often. Again, you may laugh at this, but what was important to me at that time was a nice gym, because I like going to the gym every day. So it was important to me to have a nice gym, and I like Nordstrom's. So at the time, Richmond had one. So in my brain, I wanted those 2 things. So I only wanted to live 30 minutes away from those 2 things. Go ahead and laugh. But that was what was important to me at that time. Now know that what's going to be important to you could be very different, but I need you to know what it is. So when we're looking for your next house, we can write a list of the must-haves. I need this, this, and this. Let me give you another example, completely different than my list. I need to be 30 minutes from this specific hospital. I need high-speed internet. I need a fence for my dog, and I don't want to see my neighbors out my back window. Okay, those are very specific things, and it really helps me as your real estate agent help you find the right house. Okay, let's get back to the trip. We're on trip number 1. We're staying 2 different places. We're eating at all kinds of places. We're driving around town. We're going south of the river. We're going north of the river. We're going east. We're going west. Because I really want you to see how different Richmond is based on the different areas that are here. So once you've had that trip, maybe it's a weekend trip, maybe it's a couple days, you're going to go back home. You're going to have a lot of information. And then you're going to be able to narrow things down based on that information. That is when I'd love for you to reach out to me. And on that first phone call and or Zoom call, we're going to talk about the areas you liked, the areas you didn't like, any questions you have based on your trip. So then you can kind of sort through the data from someone who's already lived here and has made the move from outside of Richmond. I know how it feels for things not to make any sense. For instance, why would someone want to move to Powhatan versus Goochland? And is there internet anywhere? And why does it feel so different from Verina and Mechanicsville? Like, I don't understand why it is the way it is. I may not be able to explain it to you, but I do know that Hopewell is different from maybe, well, lots of other places, frankly. It is. It's its own little place. To get to Hopewell, you have to go over this magical bridge. And then it has this beautiful park that overlooks the Appomattox River. And you're there and you can't figure it out because it makes no sense. But you need to know that it exists. So again, take a trip out there, look at it, see if it fits you. Because when you're looking at a map of Richmond and you're looking at the cost of houses, it's going to make no sense to you unless you drive around the areas and do your research. So we've had trip number 1. Now we're on the phone or on the Zoom and you have a list of your must-haves. Then it's time for you to make another trip out here. But Liz, okay, some people don't make a second trip. Some people, that's where I come in. They know the area, they've driven around, they're comfortable with where they want to live, and I do virtual showings for them, if you're comfortable with that. Some people are like, immediately, no, Liz, I'm going to fly another time, and during that second trip when you're here, we're going to both be driving to different areas, different neighborhoods, looking at different kind of houses. You are on the second trip, you are ready to buy a house. You are looking at houses that you could actually buy. The first trip, you're not quite ready to make that commitment. Second trip, I'm involved, you could buy a house. Why does that matter? Well, I don't want you falling in love with a house that you cannot have. Oh, I guess that is a thing. It's a real thing that sometimes people come out here and we go look at houses, but they're not quite ready. Maybe they're not pre-approved, maybe it's not time yet, maybe they have 6 months till they get the new job, and it doesn't make sense to actually look at houses you can't buy. That being said, if the market is very active like it currently is, if you see a house on Thursday, that house may be sold on Monday. And if you come out here on a Thursday and you have a month till you actually need to buy a house, eek, that's going to feel hard. Listen, that's where the virtual showing is so important. I can go to a house for you. I can get on the Zoom. Zoom is sometimes better than FaceTime is what I've found. I can get on a Zoom and I can slowly walk through the whole house with you. I don't say much because I want you to be able to really take in what's in the house. And then I can notice things for you because I know what to look at in a house. I can look at the roof. I can look at the HVAC. I can look at the water heater. I can look in the basement. I can look into the house. I can look at the yard. I can look at your neighbors. And since I've talked to you and met you before we go look at these houses, I really think of me as your matchmaker. I'm here to make you a match of a house in Richmond. And that's what the virtual showing can do for you, especially if the market is quite active like it is. If you have specific neighborhoods that you know you want to live in based on your trip number 1, we're going to set up specific searches for you in those neighborhoods. Maybe you have 3 searches going because these are the 3 neighborhoods I want. But maybe you're not a neighborhood kind of person. Maybe your criteria makes it so you could live in this area, this area, this area. Well, then we do a map search for you. I want you to know that moving from outside of Richmond, especially if it's across the country, is a big deal. I have the experience of knowing how to schedule movers, knowing how to get the house clean before you get here, knowing what closing is like here compared to maybe another state. The question oftentimes comes up, Liz, do I have to sell my current house before I buy a house in Richmond? Liz, should I rent in Richmond before I sell my house wherever I am so I get a good feel for it? Should I sell then rent? There's all of those layers of things that you may need to consider. And it's based on you. When I moved here, my husband had already been living here for a little bit, so he had a really good idea of where he really wanted to be, so we didn't have to rent. He was already here renting for business. So we didn't have to do that. And some people are not interested in that. Some people want to sell this house, come out here and buy it. The end. Some people want to sell the house and rent for a year. Whatever is good for you, I want to help you with. And if it's a rental you need, I want you to know that with Mission Realty, my current company, you have access to a property management company here that has really great rentals. Also, online, I can help you, direct you to some great places in case you do want to rent for a little bit when you get here. Also, some people, they look into an Airbnb or maybe a month-to-month corporate housing situation. I want you to know that it's okay to feel the way you feel about moving from where you're moving. Maybe you're excited to move here. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're unsure. But know that I've felt those feelings and that I am happy to help you work through the changes of moving from outside of Richmond to Richmond. My name's Liz. Go ahead and ring that bell and I'll see you on the next video.